The grand gala hall shimmered under intricate chandeliers, casting a golden glow over the opulence that surrounded Elena. The Bratva, known for its power and influence, had transformed the venue into a realm of luxury. Tables adorned with fine linens and crystal stemware dotted the room, each one hosting couples dressed in the finest attire. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and the low murmur of conversations that danced around the elaborate decor. Elena felt the weight of the atmosphere pressing down on her as she navigated through the crowd. She had been invited, but her heart was heavy with uncertainty. The Bratva was not just an organization, it was a world of ruthless ambition and unspoken rules. Despite the glamorous surroundings, Elena couldn't shake off the feeling of being an intruder in a place where loyalty was currency, and power was the only language spoken. She had come to this gala with a purpose, yet her resolve teetered under the weight of the Mafia's shadow. Her gaze swept across the room, landing on the commanding presence of Viktor Petrov, the notorious Mafia boss. He stood at the center of the gathering, surrounded by his loyal associates, his sharp features partially illuminated by the soft light. Viktor had an aura that drew people in and repelled them at the same time. The rumors about him were plenty, each more chilling than the last. Elena had heard whispers of his merciless nature, of how he could decimate anyone who dared cross him. As their eyes met, a current of tension sparked between them. At that moment, the air seemed to still. Elena felt her heart race. She was keenly aware of the way he scrutinized her, his piercing gaze searching for something beyond her facade. There was an unspoken understanding, a recognition of the danger that lay beneath the surface of their world. For Elena, the allure of Viktor was as intoxicating as it was terrifying. Every instinct urged her to keep her distance, yet there was something magnetic about him that pulled her closer. Navigating through the gala required every ounce of emotional autonomy she possessed. Elena had learned long ago that showing vulnerability could be exploited. She wore her confidence like armor, shielding herself from the scrutiny of those who could sense her trepidation. But even as she moved through the throngs of well-dressed elite, her thoughts remained fixed on Viktor. She couldn't help but feel a mix of intrigue and animosity towards him. He was both a symbol of power and a reminder of the life she had worked hard to escape. Just then, laughter erupted from a nearby table, momentarily breaking her reverie. Elena glanced over and saw Viktor, now laughing heartily at something one of his associates had said. The way he commanded attention, effortlessly drawing people into his orbit, reminded her of the gravity he wielded. It was intoxicating and suffocating all at once. She knew she had to remain composed, to keep her emotions in check. After all, this was not merely a social event, it was a battleground of wills. If you enjoy stories that explore deep emotions and complex relationships, make sure to subscribe to our channel, she thought to herself, recognizing the importance of sharing her story with those who could relate to the struggles of navigating such intense circumstances. As she sipped from her glass of champagne, Elena felt eyes on her again. This time, it was Viktor who had turned his full attention towards her, the laughter fading into the background. The room's energy shifted, the laughter replaced by a palpable silence as he moved closer, weaving through guests with a predator's grace. The way he approached was deliberate, each step calculated, as if he were closing in on a prize. "Tell me, Elena," Viktor's voice boomed, drawing nearer, "do you believe that loyalty is earned or simply a construct of fear?" His question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Those around them turned their heads, curious about the exchange, their interest piqued by the sudden focus on her. Elena felt her stomach clench, a mix of anxiety and defiance surging within her. She had anticipated this moment, knowing that Viktor would not simply let her pass by unchallenged. She had to maintain her composure, to respond in a way that asserted her strength without revealing her fear. There was no room for weakness in this game, especially not in front of him. "That depends on the price," she replied calmly, her voice steady. The words flowed from her lips in Russian, practiced and deliberate, surprising both Viktor and the onlookers. In this moment, she could feel the room collectively inhale, the silence amplifying her response. It was a bold move, one that displayed not only her confidence but also her unwillingness to be intimidated. The tension in the room shifted dramatically, the whispers beginning anew as guests exchanged looks of shock and admiration. Viktor's expression momentarily flickered, revealing a glimmer of intrigue beneath his stoic facade. For the first time, he seemed to respect her, his authoritative exterior cracking just enough to show the curiosity that lingered within. The dynamic had shifted, and Elena could feel the intensity of the moment enveloping them. She held his gaze, refusing to back down, aware that this interaction could pave the way for an entirely new set of challenges. As the silence lingered, she felt a rush of empowerment, knowing she had made an impression, one that could either lead to her liberation or her downfall. The gala continued around them, but for Elena and Victor, the world had narrowed to just the two of them. They stood at the precipice of a complicated relationship, with every glance and word delivering a promise of what was to come. The stakes were high, and neither was willing to lose. As Victor approached her, a palpable tension filled the air, thickening the atmosphere in the elegantly decorated gala. The lights shimmered off the crystal chandeliers, casting a warm glow over the guests who were momentarily engrossed in their conversations. However, all eyes shifted to the two of them as he moved closer, his presence commanding attention like a magnet. Elena felt a surge of anxiety coupled with an undeniable thrill. This moment felt crucial, charged with unspoken words and hidden meanings. Elena stood her ground, straightening her posture and meeting his intense gaze with equal resolve. Victor was not just another man in a tailored suit, he was the Bratva boss, a figure cloaked in power and danger. There was something magnetic about him that made it hard for her to look away, yet each step he took increased the urgency in her chest. She braced herself, knowing she had to navigate this interaction carefully. This wasn't merely a conversation, it was a test, a challenge that could shift the dynamics in the room. "Tell me, Elena," Victor initiated, his voice smooth yet firm, reverberating through the crowd, "do you believe that loyalty is earned or simply a construct of fear?" His question hung in the air, laden with implications. Those nearby perked up, drawn into the encounter that was unfolding before them. The laughter from earlier dissipated, curiosity replaced it, creating a bubble of silence that surrounded them. Elena's heart raced. She had anticipated this moment, but now that it was here, the weight of it bore down on her. A part of her wanted to retreat, to let the spotlight on Victor remain undisturbed. Yet another part ignited her spirit, urging her to stand firm. It was a delicate dance of power and control, and she refused to be the one who faltered. "That depends on the price," she responded, her voice steady and assertive. Speaking in Russian felt natural, as if the language belonged to her just as much as her fierce independence. The words rolled off her tongue, surprising not just Victor but everyone around them. The room collectively inhaled. This was an unexpected twist, a bold move that altered the power dynamics entirely. A hushed silence enveloped them, the guests exchanging glances filled with shock and intrigue. Victor's expression shifted, a flicker of something deeper flashing across his features. Was it respect? Curiosity? It was fleeting, but enough to signal that this exchange would have repercussions. Elena held his gaze, her heart pounding, knowing she had made her mark. She wasn't just another guest, she was an equal player in this arena of power. For a moment, the tension between them expanded, charged with potential. Elena felt the energy in the room shift as she realized the weight of her response. She had managed to surprise the formidable Victor, and this revelation gave her a sense of empowerment she hadn't anticipated. It was a small victory, but in a world dominated by fear and manipulation, every bit of agency mattered. As Victor looked at her, the cacophony of the gala faded into a distant hum. The crowd had become a mere backdrop to their exchange. Elena's mind raced with the implications of this encounter. She had always envisioned herself as an outsider, a woman navigating the complex web of the underworld through caution and strategy. Yet here she was, standing tall in front of the Bratva boss, refusing to cower in the face of authority. "Don't forget to like this video if you're captivated by the tension in our story," she thought, recognizing that the unfolding of her life's narrative had become just as engaging as the tales woven in the gritty underworld. Victor seemed to regain his composure, his demeanor shifting from surprise to intrigue. "Interesting perspective," he acknowledged, tilting his head slightly as if considering her words. The slight change in his posture, the way his gaze softened ever so slightly, spoke volumes. It was as though she had pricked the surface of his carefully constructed facade, allowing a glimpse of the man beneath the layers of power and control. As the silence lingered, Elena sensed the weight of all eyes on them, each person waiting to see how this interaction would unfold. Would Victor retaliate with disdain, or would this mark the beginning of a strange connection between them? She couldn't deny the electric current that danced between them, a tension that felt both thrilling and perilous. "I admire your audacity, Elena," Victor finally said, his voice low and velvety, laced with a hint of challenge. "But in this world, the consequences of boldness can lead to both great power and great peril." Elena felt a shiver run down her spine at his words. They weren't empty threats, they carried the weight of his experiences and the dangerous world he inhabited. She understood that she was treading on thin ice, yet she refused to back down. This was her moment to assert her place, to carve out her identity amidst the chaos that surrounded her. "Perhaps," she replied, the corners of her lips lifting slightly, "but power is also a choice. I choose to stand on my own, whether in fear or loyalty." Her response echoed in the stillness, marking another shift in their encounter, as Victor's eyes narrowed slightly, weighing her words. The murmurs around them began to surface again, the aura of curiosity rekindled. Elena could feel the shift in allegiances, as eyes that were once drawn to Victor now flickered toward her, intrigued by her defiance. It was an unexpected turn of events, one that could seal her fate or free her from the chains of fear that had bound her for too long. In that moment, Elena embraced the uncertainty of the situation. This was no longer just a gala, it was a battlefield of wills, and she was determined to emerge victorious. The stakes had been raised, and the night was just beginning to unfold its intricate layers. She could not predict where this path would lead her, but she was ready to navigate the complexities that lay ahead. As their exchange lingered in the air, Elena knew that she had ignited something within Victor, a spark of intrigue that could either lead to her liberation or plunge her deeper into the dark world he commanded. Their fates were now intertwined, a dance of power and vulnerability that had only just begun. The ripple effect of Elena's bold response rippled through the room, sending an electric charge into the atmosphere. Whispers began to circulate amongst the onlookers, each individual processing the significance of what they had just witnessed. The initial shock was palpable, a moment had shifted in the delicate balance of power, and Elena was at the center of it, though she felt the weight of all eyes pressing down on her. Victor, the Bratva boss, appeared momentarily taken aback, his expression dancing between irritation and admiration. The flicker of respect in his eyes, however fleeting, revealed the complexity of his character. In a world where power often came at the expense of personal connections, Elena had dared to challenge him, and in doing so, she had forced a reckoning within him. Could it be that beneath that hardened exterior lay a man capable of understanding the strength of another? Elena could feel the room shift as the energy transformed, conversations buzzing like electric wires come to life. There was a newfound respect for her audacity, with glances exchanged amongst the guests. Some looked at her as if she had just committed the gravest of sins, while others regarded her with admiration. Had she struck a nerve? Did she possess the ability to defy Victor's authority without repercussions? "Wow, you really did it," whispered Marina, a friend of Elena's who had been standing nearby, her eyes wide with disbelief. "I can't believe you said that to him." The admiration in her voice was evident, but Elena felt her heart racing, knowing that she was now a target for scrutiny. As she stood there, trying to maintain her composure, she couldn't help but reflect on the choices that had led her to this moment. This was more than just a gala, it was a test of wills, the beginning of a tumultuous journey that she hadn't anticipated. She had always viewed herself as a cautious player in the dangerous game of the underworld, but in this instance, she had chosen to embrace an unfamiliar role, that of a challenger. Victor took a step closer, his imposing figure towering over her. The faint scent of his cologne mingled with the luxurious atmosphere of the gala, creating an intoxicating blend that both unnerved and intrigued her. "You have guts, Elena," he said, his voice smooth yet layered with an edge that sent shivers down her spine. "But be cautious, this arena you're stepping into isn't forgiving." His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Fearing the quiet after her display of bravado, Elena steadied her breath. She was aware of the potential consequences but was determined not to show any weakness. "I'm not afraid of the truth," she replied, her voice steady and confident. "I face my challenges head-on." The tension escalated, the room collectively holding its breath as if waiting for an explosion. Victor's expression was inscrutable, a mask that hid whatever thoughts swirled beneath the surface. She could feel the intensity of his gaze, a mixture of scrutiny and unspoken curiosity, and it was both terrifying and exhilarating. His presence pushed her to confront her own fears. Could she really hold her ground against someone like him? In that moment of suspended time, Elena noticed a subtle change in Victor's demeanor. His rigid posture began to soften, almost imperceptibly, as if he was allowing a glimpse of the man behind the Mafia boss. The vulnerability that seeped through was unexpected, and she couldn't help but wonder if there was more to him than had been portrayed. Elena's thoughts spiraled as she grappled with the complexities of human emotion. A part of her was drawn to the enigmatic man before her, his power and authority offering a strange allure. Yet another part of her screamed to retreat, to protect her heart from the risks associated with his world. The dichotomy of attraction and distrust battled within her, complicating her emotions. From the edges of the gathering, she could see people still whispering, speculating about the nature of their interaction. If you're enjoying this story, please consider subscribing for more, she thought, almost whimsically, as if her life had become a shared narrative, broadcasted for an audience that was just as captivated by this moment as she was. Elena's heartbeat quickened as Victor held her gaze, a silent challenge hanging in the air between them. It was a game, one that could lead to either empowerment or downfall. She could feel the eyes of the crowd on them, some entranced, others wary, but all were engaged in the power play unfolding before them. For a fleeting moment, she contemplated the repercussions of this exchange. She was not just speaking to him, she was crafting her identity in the midst of a male-dominated arena, claiming her space in a narrative that was often scripted by men like Victor. The stakes were rising, and she could sense that Victor was acutely aware of the shift. "Have we reached an understanding, then?" Victor finally asked, breaking the silence. His voice was low, almost conspiratorial, as if they were the only two in the room. Elena took a moment to consider her reply, knowing that every word counted. "Perhaps," she said carefully, "but understanding does not mean submission." His lips curled into a hint of a smile, as if he had found her fight refreshing. "I wouldn't expect anything less from you, Elena." With that, the air between them crackled with possibilities, a dance of challenge and intrigue that neither could ignore. As the night wore on, Elena felt a newfound sense of determination. She was not merely a participant in Victor's world, she was becoming an essential player destined to influence the unfolding story. The gala continued to swirl around them like a tempest, an elegant chaos that belied the underlying tensions. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted, and a disturbance echoed from the far side of the room. Glasses clinked nervously, and the murmur of voices heightened to a tense pitch. Victor's gaze met Elena's, a silent acknowledgement passing between them that something monumental was about to unfold. Elena's heart raced as her instincts kicked in. The gala was more than a mere social event, it was a showcase of power dynamics, and she was caught right in the middle. As chaos erupted, a scuffle breaking out among some of the guests, she felt the thrum of adrenaline coursing through her veins. The clash of voices, an array of expletives, and shouts painted a vivid picture of the power struggles at play within the Bratva circles. In that moment, Victor's demeanor shifted. The confidence that usually radiated from him morphed into something serious, almost primal. He instinctively moved closer to Elena, creating a physical barrier between her and the unfolding scene. "Stay close," he instructed, his voice low yet commanding. There was a hint of protectiveness in his tone, a fleeting glimpse of the man beneath the Mafia boss facade. Elena, caught off guard by the sudden intimacy, nodded. She could sense his urgency, the need to maintain control amidst the chaos, an instinct that was deep-rooted in his very being. "What's happening?" she asked, trying to keep her composure. "A dispute," he replied tersely, his eyes scanning the crowd. "It happens. People forget their place." Before she could respond, Victor stepped forward, his presence drawing the attention of those around him. With an authoritative command, he raised his voice above the din, "Enough." The single word resonated powerfully, silencing the brawl like a clap of thunder. The guests, previously engaged in the commotion, froze, their eyes now glued to him. Elena felt a surge of emotions, his power was palpable. It was intoxicating yet intimidating. As Victor asserted his influence, she couldn't help but admire his ability to command the room. But admiration was quickly tinged with concern as she watched the shadows flicker across his eyes, revealing a glimmer of vulnerability hidden behind his tough exterior. With the immediate crisis averted, Victor turned back to her, his expression softening. "We may need to work together on this," he said, his tone shifting from that of a commander to a reluctant partner. A new layer of their relationship was unfolding, propelled by the urgency of the situation. "Together," she echoed. "What exactly do you have in mind?" He regarded her for a moment, weighing his words. "I need you to stay composed, even if it gets chaotic again. Your presence is valuable, but it also attracts attention." This was a pivotal moment for Elena. She had entered this world on her own terms, ready to face the implications of her choices with grace. "I can handle myself, Victor," she replied, her resolve strengthening. "I'm not afraid of chaos." With a nod, he took a step closer, the space between them shrinking as they began to move together through the crowd. She felt the energy shift again, the tension between them evolving from a mere challenge to something charged with possibility. They were two players in a game that was as dangerous as it was alluring, and every interaction felt like a dance on the edge of a knife. As they navigated through the room, she caught snippets of whispered conversations. Eyes darted between them, speculation and curiosity palpable in the air. What did they discuss? Is she in his favor now? The gossip swirled, and Elena understood that her very presence next to Victor transformed the narrative around her. "Let them talk," Victor said, catching her glance. "They will always talk, especially when power dynamics shift." There it was again, a glimpse of his vulnerability. Behind the bravado lay an understanding of the world they inhabited, a world that thrived on perception as much as on reality. As they approached a quieter section of the gala, the atmosphere transformed. The lavish decor and flickering candlelight provided an almost intimate backdrop, contrasting sharply with the earlier chaos. Elena could feel her pulse quicken, both from the earlier tension and the magnetic pull she experienced around Victor. "Now that we have a moment," he began, his voice softer, "let's strategize. If we're going to navigate this world together, we need to understand each other's strengths." The weight of his words sunk in, and for the first time, Elena recognized the possibility of partnership within conflict. "I want to be clear," she stated resolutely, "my loyalty isn't given lightly. I need to know where you stand, Victor." Victor studied her, his gaze intense and focused. "Loyalty is earned, not given, Elena. But I can assure you, you're worth the effort." There it was, a moment that transcended mere words, filled with unspoken implications of trust and respect. Elena felt the undeniable spark between them, a connection that was both thrilling and terrifying. "I appreciate your honesty," she replied, "but I won't lose myself in this world. I'm here to influence it, not be consumed by it." Victor nodded, a flicker of admiration passing through his eyes. "That's exactly why I respect you." As they stood there, the world around them faded, the noise of the gala drowning into the background. The connection they were forging was one of mutual respect, growing from the ashes of chaos. "If you're enjoying this story, please consider subscribing for more," she thought as she felt the weight of their shared moment, knowing that this was just the beginning of a complex journey they were embarking on together. Elena took a deep breath. The night was still young, and with it, the challenges and opportunities waiting in the shadows. She was ready to confront them, not just alongside Victor, but as an equal in a world that would constantly test her resolve. The tension in the air between them simmered, a promise of what was to come. As the lingering tension of the previous encounter settled in, it was clear that the aftermath of their moment together weighed heavily on both Victor and Elena. The gala continued around them, a whirlwind of laughter and clinking glasses, but the air had shifted for the two of them. The vibrant energy of the evening seemed to fade as they navigated the emotional fallout, each grappling with the decisions that lay ahead. Elena's heart raced as she processed the significance of what had transpired. She thought about the fragile balance of power in the room and how precariously it hung by a thread. "What does this mean for us?" she pondered, her thoughts swirling like the expensive champagne in her glass. She had drawn a line, asserting her autonomy, but the connection forged in that brief moment with Victor felt undeniable. "Are you all right?" Victor's voice broke through her contemplation, filled with genuine concern. Elena looked up, meeting his piercing gaze that seemed to search for something deeper. She could see the slight furrow in his brow, a crack in his otherwise composed facade, and it stirred something within her, a mix of admiration and empathy. "I'm fine," she replied, perhaps a little too quickly. "But we need to talk about what just happened." Her voice was steady, her resolve firm. This wasn't just about her feelings, it was about the implications of their alliance in a world where loyalty could change in an instant. Victor nodded, an acknowledgement that their interactions were more than just fleeting moments in a grand show. "Agreed," he said, leaning slightly closer, his tone lowering. "But it has to be in private. There are ears everywhere." Elena felt a shiver of thrill at the thought of stepping away from the prying eyes of the gala into a more intimate space, but it was also a stark reminder of the perilous game they were entangled in. She cast a glance around, noting the watchful eyes of rival factions, all eager for a hint of weakness. "Lead the way," she said, her voice steady, masking the whirlwind of emotions inside her. As they moved through a side corridor adorned with exquisite art and soft lighting, Elena's mind raced. She had to remain in control of her emotions even as they both navigated the precarious nature of their feelings. The walls felt like they were closing in, and she was acutely aware that they were stepping into a space where vulnerability could easily be exploited. Once they reached a small, dimly lit lounge, Victor shut the door behind them, isolating them from the chaos of the gala. The air felt charged with anticipation, the kind that made her skin prickle. "So," he began, his voice low and measured, "where do we stand?" Elena took a deep breath, finding her footing amidst the emotional turbulence. "We stand at a crossroads," she explained, her gaze unwavering. "I respect your power and the life you have built, but I won't be drawn into it blindly. My moral compass won't allow it." Victor leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. "You talk about loyalty and morals as if they exist in absolutes. This world isn't black and white, Elena. I know you understand that." His eyes darkened momentarily, revealing a glimpse of his internal struggle. "Every choice I make has consequences, not just for me, but for those around me." She stepped closer, closing the distance that had felt like an insurmountable barrier even moments before. "That's exactly why I need to know your intentions. What role do you see me playing in your world?" His expression softened as he contemplated her words. "I want you by my side, not as a pawn but as an equal. You bring something to this that I can't replicate, a perspective, a strength. You've earned my respect." Elena felt her pulse quicken, the sincerity in his voice resonated with her, breaking down the walls she had carefully constructed. "But what if the world you inhabit consumes me? What if I lose myself in trying to be your equal?" Victor pushed off from the wall, crossing the space between them until he was inches from her. "You won't lose yourself," he promised, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'll do whatever it takes to ensure that you maintain your autonomy. I'm drawn to your strength, not your fragility." As he spoke, Elena sensed the weight of his vulnerability. The way he stared into her eyes felt like he was peeling back layers of his own defenses, revealing the turmoil that lay beneath the surface. It was frightening yet exhilarating. "But can we trust each other?" she questioned, the uncertainty creeping back into her voice. "In this world, trust is a luxury," he replied, his gaze fierce. "But I believe in what we have. You're not just some diversion for me. You challenge me, and I need that. But we must tread carefully." Elena nodded, her heart racing with the gravity of their exchange. "What's the plan then? How do we navigate this alliance without losing ourselves?" A small, almost imperceptible smile flickered across Victor's lips. "We start by making our own rules, carving out our own path amid the chaos. I can protect you, but you must also allow me to be vulnerable." There was a new intensity in his tone, a promise that straddled the line between partnership and something deeper. "Then let's establish what we're willing to risk," she said, her voice steady and clear. "I want to influence this world, but I need to know I can do so on my own terms." The determination in her words ignited something raw between them, and she felt a sense of empowerment that she hadn't anticipated. The moment hung between them, charged with possibility and the weight of unspoken feelings. If you're enjoying this story, please consider subscribing for more. The journey ahead is just beginning. Victor's gaze softened further, and he took a step back, giving her space yet remaining attuned to the energy they shared. Then let's prepare ourselves. We influence together, or not at all. As they returned to the gala, the unsteady familiarity between them transformed into a tentative partnership, a shared commitment to navigate the murky waters of their world. Elena realized that this was not merely about survival but also about forging a connection that could withstand the trials ahead. The night was far from over, and both felt the gravity of the choices that awaited them. As the gala continued in its luxurious chaos, Victor felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. Rival factions lurked in the shadows, and the tension in the air was palpable. He could feel the storm brewing, not just from the external threats, but also within himself as he wrestled with the deepening connection he felt for Elena. The stakes were higher than ever, and the choices he needed to make weighed heavily on his conscience. Elena, aware of the shift in atmosphere, glanced around the room. The opulent decorations and clinking glasses felt like a facade, hiding the danger that simmered beneath. She had never been one to shy away from a challenge, but this was different. The world Victor inhabited was a double-edged sword, and she could sense the danger drawing closer. As she caught his eye, a silent message passed between them, a recognition of their shared predicament. Suddenly, a loud commotion erupted in the corner of the room, drawing everyone's attention. A group of Victor's rivals had entered, their presence instantly creating a ripple of unease. Elena felt Victor tense beside her, his posture shifting into that of a leader ready to defend what was his. The atmosphere thickened with a mix of fear and anticipation as everyone turned to watch the unfolding drama. "Stay close to me," Victor instructed in a low voice, his eyes scanning the room for threats. "I won't let anything happen to you." The sincerity of his words grounded her, but the reality of his world was harsh. Death and betrayal were common currencies in the game they were playing. Elena nodded, feeling the protective energy radiating from him. Yet, she knew that being close to him also meant being embroiled in the turmoil that surrounded him. As the rivals approached, Victor's face hardened, and the tension in the room escalated. One of the rival bosses, a tall man with a cold smile, approached Victor, eyes glinting with malice. "I see you've brought a guest, Victor. Is she here to witness your downfall?" His words dripped with contempt, aimed to provoke. Elena could feel the heat of Victor's anger rising, but he maintained his composure. "You're mistaken. She's here to see the strength of my alliances, unlike your fleeting connections," he shot back, his voice steady but laced with underlying tension. The rival laughed, creating a ripple of nervousness among the onlookers. "Strength? Or just arrogance? Let's see how strong you really are." The gauntlet was thrown down, and the room held its breath, sensing the impending clash. Elena watched as Victor stepped forward, his body language shifting from defensive to aggressive. "I have no interest in posturing, Dmitri. You know the consequences of crossing me." The two men stood toe-to-toe, the air crackling with unspoken threats and challenges. As the confrontation escalated, Elena felt the urgency to intervene. She stepped closer to Victor, her voice calm yet firm. "Victor, maybe we should step back for a moment. This isn't the time or the place." He shot her a glance, and in that moment, the tension in his eyes softened just a fraction. "No one disrespects me in my territory, Elena. You need to understand the stakes here." "I do understand," she replied, her voice low but steady. "But you can't let your anger cloud your judgment. Think about the implications." His steely gaze faltered momentarily, and the crowds around them were silent, awaiting his next move. "What do you suggest?" he asked, the vulnerability in his voice barely perceptible to the untrained ear. "Let's show strength differently. De-escalate instead of inflaming the situation," she advised, her heart racing as she realized the depth of her own feelings for him. This wasn't just about survival, it was about finding a way to hold on to their humanity within the chaos. Victor hesitated, and for a heartbeat, the world around them faded away. "You're right," he finally said, the admission feeling weighty yet freeing. There was a shift, and he turned back to the rival with an unexpected calm. "This isn't worth the lives it could cost us. I'm not interested in a fight today." The rival's smile faltered, surprise evident in his eyes. "Cowardice looks good on you, Victor. But mark my words, one day you won't be able to back down." Victor faced him, his expression resolute. "And that day won't come from you. You're no threat to me." The room buzzed as people exchanged glances, the tension slowly dissipating. As the rival retreated, Elena could sense the admiration and respect from those around her. Victor's decision had shifted the power dynamics, and the murmurs of approval began circulating through the crowd. Elena felt a sense of pride welling within her. Weaving their destinies together was more than just a survival tactic, it was a partnership forged in the fires of danger and choice. "See," she whispered to Victor, a hint of a smile gracing her lips. "Strength doesn't always have to be displayed through aggression." He turned to her, the corners of his mouth twitching in a barely concealed smile. "You've changed the rules of the game, Elena. I like that about you." In that moment, surrounded by the glitz of the gala and the undercurrent of danger, they found themselves standing on the precipice of something more profound than either had anticipated. The night was not over, and the challenges were far from resolved, but there was a new understanding between them, a bond forged in the fire of conflict. If you're enjoying this story, please consider subscribing for more. The journey ahead promises to be as thrilling and unpredictable as ever. Their connection felt electric, and as they stepped back into the crowd, the unspoken promise of what lay ahead hung in the air. Together, they would navigate the perilous waters of their lives, each step a testament to their growing partnership and the authenticity of their emotions. As they continued to face the challenges of the night, it became clear that the real battle was not just against external threats but also within their hearts. As the night continued, the atmosphere remained thick with unresolved tension and unspoken emotions, a delicate balance that both Victor and Elena navigated carefully. The gala, once a showcase of opulence, now felt more like a battleground of hearts and loyalties. Elena's mind raced, contemplating the implications of their choices, while Victor's presence beside her became both a comfort and a source of anxiety. Could they truly navigate this dangerous world together, or would the shadows of the Bratva consume them? Elena glanced around at the mingling guests. Many were still buzzing from the earlier confrontation, their whispered conversations creating an undercurrent of intrigue. She felt the weight of their gazes, some filled with admiration, others with envy. In this world, respect was often given through power, and she had just unwittingly become a part of Victor's strategic play. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. "Are you all right?" Victor asked, his voice low and sincere. For a moment, the mask he wore as the Bratva boss slipped, revealing a man vulnerable to the chaos surrounding him. "I am," Elena replied, her heart racing at the close proximity of their bodies. "But I think we have just stirred the pot, haven't we?" His lips curled into a slight smile, showcasing a glimpse of the man beneath the ruthless exterior. "You are more perceptive than most give you credit for." As they moved deeper into the gala, the music swirled around them like a gentle reminder of the world beyond the turmoil. But for Elena, the rhythm was overshadowed by the pulse of her heartbeat and the electric connection she felt with Victor. They were two figures caught in a dangerous dance, each step resonating with the potential for passion and peril. Suddenly, a group of men approached them, their expressions hardened and calculating. Elena's instincts flared, recognizing the tension in the air. Victor straightened, his posture becoming assertive once more. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice no longer holding the warmth it had just moments ago. One of the men stepped forward, a smirk playing on his lips. "Just wanted to congratulate you, Victor. You really did a number on Dmitri earlier. But you know this is just the beginning, right? You can't hide behind a woman forever." Elena's heart sank at the implications of the taunt. They were testing Victor's strength, trying to provoke a reaction. "Enough," she interjected, stepping forward. "You should learn to watch how you speak to your superiors. Victor stands alone in strength, and if you think otherwise, you're gravely mistaken." The men were taken aback, and an uneasy silence followed. Victor glanced at Elena, surprise flickering in his eyes. The crowd around them began to take notice, the tension palpable. "Interesting tactic," he murmured, as if realizing the depths of her resolve. One of the men scoffed, attempting to regain control of the situation. "Is that so? Perhaps you should remember your place, girl. This isn't your world." Elena held her ground, feeling Victor's presence beside her strengthen her resolve. "This world is filled with more complexity than you understand. Underestimating anyone here would be your greatest mistake." The atmosphere shifted again, as murmurs rippled through the crowd, a mix of surprise and respect for Elena's boldness. Victor turned to her, admiration evident in his gaze. "You continue to surprise me, Elena. It seems you have a knack for handling things." "It's not about handling things, Victor. It's about knowing when to stand firm and when to let go." "I won't be a pawn in someone else's game," she replied, determination lacing her words. The men, realizing they were losing their grip on the conversation, shifted uncomfortably. They exchanged glances, weighing their next words carefully. Finally, the lead man grunted, "We'll be watching you." He turned, signaling to his companions, and they retreated, leaving a palpable shift in the ambience. As they walked away, Victor turned to Elena, the storm of emotions in his eyes swirling. "You have no idea the risks you just took. And you have no idea how much I've learned from you already," she countered, a fierce spark igniting between them. As the night progressed, Elena and Victor found themselves side by side more often, working together to navigate the intricate web of social interactions that defined the gala. Laughter trickled through the air, and they shared fleeting moments of eye contact, each glance filled with unspoken words. The chemistry crackled, a silent acknowledgement of their growing connection amidst the chaos. Yet, as the clock ticked towards the end of the evening, Elena felt the weight of their reality settle heavily on her shoulders. The emotional stakes had risen, and with every shared smile, the danger of their situation intensified. Would they continue to build this fragile relationship, or would the forces of their worlds pull them apart? Standing at the edge of the gala, Elena looked out into the night, the stars twinkling overhead like distant promises. As she turned to Victor, the truth of her heart became clear. "We need to talk about what comes next." Victor stepped closer, his expression serious yet softening, his vulnerability creeping back into view. "You are right, but I won't make promises I can't keep. This life is unpredictable." Elena reached for his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers. "Life always is. But if we're going to navigate this together, we need to be honest with each other. No more games." Victor searched her eyes, and in that moment, the tension between them transformed from a volatile storm into something rooted in understanding. "I can promise you this, I will protect you, but that comes at a cost. And I will protect my autonomy, Victor. But I also want to find a way to be with you in all of this," she replied, her voice steady and firm. As they stood together, the chaos of the evening faded into the background. They were two souls entwined in a complex dance of power and vulnerability, each holding the other accountable for their choices. The stakes would always be high, but now they faced the uncertainty together, united by the bond they forged in the fire of adversity. As the last strains of music faded, Elena felt a sense of hope blooming, fragile yet resilient. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe for more emotional narratives. The journey of Victor and Elena is just beginning, and the adventures ahead promise to be thrilling and fraught with drama. With that, they stepped back into the world that awaited them, ready to face whatever came next, strong and unwavering. Together.